Welcome back. You're watching Inside Politics. Thank you for staying with us. We just want to hear what our viewers back at home have to say. Let's start with our first caller who's on the line, Fred Nyabeche from Voi. It's been a while, Fred. Good afternoon. Fred, can you hear me? Fred, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Well, we seem to have a challenge with connecting with Fred Nyabeche from Voi. If you're listening, kindly call back again if you could. Let's just cross over to our next caller, who's Paul Chalo calling from Ruiru. Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. Chalo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon to you.
I'm very fine, thank you. What do you have to say
I'm
about...
happy to see you. I am talking on Inside Politics.
Okay. What do you have to say about the topical
very
issues?
Interesting issues. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, kindly continue. What do you have to say about the
to
topical
you.
issues?
I am the former lecturer of Mark Bichaki in Inter University. Yes, and I am happy to hear the issues that are playing in.
Okay.
But it is clearly inconsistent with the current issues in Kenya to say that what is happening in Kenya is the theater of the absurd. Because matters pertaining to BBI are clearly to the locals, the people who vote, and they are the ignorant masses. That's something we need to underscore. I like ideas of Mark because he's a bright guy, but clearly Mark and Gloria always go on the jugular, but that is a talk for another day.
Yeah.
It is a hypothetical idea in a serious BBI discourse to say that the issues that we are handling in Kenya are about the deputy governor and a few other people. Yes, we need to revise this constitution with a view to amending it to reach a final end. And I'm quoting the issues, ideas with Kivuta Kibwana, who said we don't have a perfect constitution.
True.
A constitution can go through amendment many times as possible, much as is opposed to the same. That is the bit about me about BBI. But going forward for the election of Kenya 2022, I think it is too early. It is too early for us to cast aspersions on any side. Yes. And the issue is one. BBI just needs some amendment, as the outgoing bishop said. Just needs some amendment. It's only that the train has left the station. But we are picking the train wherever it is.
Right. Many thanks.
Yes, we need to fix a few things going forward.
Okay. Many thanks.
Yes, and I am happy to give my ideas. Same?
Okay.
Yes, and clearly, Gloria has been going on the judge, on Mark the judge. Today he has gone to another person. Going forward, we need to have a sober, reasonable, serious, robust discussion.
All right. Many thanks. Allow us to end that particular call right there. I'm sure Mark Bichachi has received the salutations and we received the instructions as well. Fred Nyabeche from Voi, good afternoon. How are you?
Jesse.
Talk to us. What do you think about the topical issues?
Thank you so much. I'm really happy with your panelists. One, on the BBI, my position remains that this is the best thing that we can have for now, whereas it might not be a panacea for our problems. But sometimes when we look at those who are opposed to this process, the confusion that they are trying to cause maybe makes some of us wonder whether they want to serve selfish interests or not. Certain obscene ideas like multiple choice and so on, the continued shifting of goalposts One time is the process that they are not comfortable with. The next is the content. I think that speaks to people that would like to derail a process that is well intended. And now coming to Nairobi, allow me please, because most of the panelists that you are having are Nairobi residents.
Yes.
I think it's a big indictment on the Nairobi voter. It speaks to the kind of leadership that they had to elect. And some of us, even in 2017, felt that the Nairobians would let Kenyans down by making certain forms of choices. Somebody says that when you elect an idiot, you are well represented. So they should be the last people to complain, because Sonko has demonstrated that he lacks the capacity, be it mentor or whatever. He has really shown how low we can think as leaders. Even what Sonko did last week was an open demonstration on how he has failed. The fact that he had to carry MCAs who are supposed to provide oversight, who are taking them all the way to Kwale, spicing up their stay there with the concubines and strippers. I think that speaks to the low level of leadership that Nairobi has come to.
All right, Fred Nyabeche, allow me to ask, because we're not looking at the Sonko the individual, we're looking at Sonko the governor. Are you happy with the leadership, the work he's done so far as the governor?
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay. Actually, he has failed in providing leadership for a city like Nairobi. Really, when leadership is lacking, you see many things not happening. And really, Sonko is to blame for all the problems that we are seeing in Nairobi. So it behoves us as Kenyans, as the Kenyan voter, next time we go voting, we should make choices based on concrete evidence of people who can deliver on services, not on emotion. Because I want to believe that the kind of leadership that we chose in Nairobi was more of informed by emotion rather than by reason. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Fred Nyabeche, right there calling from Voi. We now want to take a look, or rather talk to our next caller, Habib Omar, who's calling from Nairobi. Omar, a very good afternoon to you.
Jesse and the panel.
Good afternoon. What do you have to say, especially about the issue of Nairobi? I see you're calling from Nairobi.
I'm calling from Nairobi.
Yes.
Nairobi, as the panel has said, especially the ones who are supporting that Nairobi should go the way it is. And I think one person has just said, Igade has never resigned. Igade just wrote a letter to Sonko himself. He never took his letter to IBC, Electoral Commission. So that means Igade, in law, Igade should be able to be the deputy, to be take over Nairobi, if he so wishes, because the law is with him. The other one I want to talk about is about the election. You remember, even there was a time that we wanted to separate the presidential elections and the members of parliament and MCA, simply because there have always been a mix-up of battles between members of parliament, members of MCA, and such. So it is scheduled to have referendum, and at the same time we have the general election in Kenya. So maybe that is the position, I think, Jesse.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate your input, Habib Omar, right there, calling from Nairobi. Let's cross over to Bomet County right now, where Samuel Ruta is on the line. Good afternoon.
Mzuri sana.
Uko mzima?
Niko mzima kabisa.
Aya, tuongee juu ya jambo ambazo tumeweza kugusia leo.
Umekusia juu ya hii maneno ya kusign ya hii BBI. Kitu mimi nashangaa. Ninauliza hao maasla wale wanaochia kwa hapo wale wanaongea. hii PPI tulilazimisha tusaini. Hatukupewa vitabu tusome. Kitu ya kwanza tungepewa vitabu tusome kwanza, alafu baadaye tusaini. Ya pili, kitu mimi nauliza hii maneno ya Songo. Kama Songo hakufanya chenye inatakikana, hiyo ni kawaida kutolewa mtu kwa uongozi wake. Lakini kitu mimi nataka kitu mimi nauliza hii maneno ya kusign tulilazimisha kusign ma assistant chief. Na kitu mimi naomba kama ingekuwa mzuri tungepewa vitabu tusome, tuelewe, alafu tusign. Sasa hiyo vitu tulisign tulilazimisha. Sasa hiyo kitu itaenda through kwa sababu tulilazimisha tusign. Hiyo ni maoni yangu, kama ingekuwezekana irudishwe tupewe vitabu. Hata wale maasila wale wanaongea hapo walipewa vitabu wasome.
Haya.
Hiyo ni maoni yangu hiyo.
Sawa.
Vitabu kama alipewa tupewa vitabu tusome.
Okay, nani alikulazimisha kusign? Naweza kuuliza Samuel, nani alikulazimisha?
Assistant chief.
Haya.
Assistant chief alilazimisha sisi tusign hiyo.
Na hakuna kitabu ililetwa?
Hakuna kitabu, hata kwa location yangu sibaji anuot hakuna vitabu. Mwenye alisoma mimi nataka aseme kabisa alipewa nani vitabu. Atupewa vitabu kabisa.
Haya, sawa.
Tulisai bure.
Okay. Samuel Ruta right there. Asante sana is calling from Bomet County. Well, it's an issue with civic education, and it's been brought on the forefront right there. Not everyone has actually read the document, and I think that's why the government is encouraging people, read the document before you sign, but that is how it is on the ground, apparently, according to Samuel Ruta right there from Bomet County. Gloria, you're smiling. I have to ask why you're so happy.
I'm not happy, actually. It is a sad affair. I was listening to that guy talking, and I was saying, we can come here all day in studio and talk English, nini. Lakini vitu kwa ground ni ati system inasukuma watu wa sign or append signatures, because that is how the system works. So there you have one of the person calling in. If we were going to open the phone lines for at least 15 minutes and we say we are going to pick calls from each and every county, that story will be replicated across 47 counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's not the case all round. There are Kenyans who have accessed the document, who are making informed decisions about it, whether they're in agreement in some or all, or in agreement with none of it all. I'd like to hear your final thought, even as we go ahead with the discussion, Gloria.
Well, my final thought is, as usual, speaking to the youth, this Building Bridges initiative has got nothing to offer you. It is not empowering you in any way. It is not bringing you to the executive. It is not bringing you to the judiciary. It has nothing to offer you as a youth in this country. And so I would say just stay clear of being pulled into a contest that is not yours. This is a contest between those politicians who should have expired, who are now trying to gain more political mileage, and they're actually trying to extend their careers in politics. So this has nothing to do with us. Let them go back to the boardroom, do whatever it is that they want to do with that document, pass it, give themselves positions, but don't go out there being pushed into a mock elections. That's the thing.
Okay, I'm sure panelists have something to say about that. Mark Vichachi, let me start with you. Your direct reaction to perhaps what the callers have said, including what Gloria has just mentioned about the youth.
Well, I have no business answering Gloria. Her statement is self-defeatist. I shall not bother. The second issue is this, that as a country, we need to seriously consider where we are headed when we sit on national TV and we say that there's no difference between the system and the state. I'd like to remind Kenyans that the state is established in the Constitution. And that Constitution is more valid than any title deed or anything you receive. The president and indeed governors sign a document taking office. Those are not things we can take lightly. Even more so, MCAs are elected representatives of the people and practice the will of the people on behalf of the people. To disparage what MCAs do and willfully vote for and call it a system hack is to say that the democracy and the voice of the people means nothing to us. And what I find dangerous is where we consistently and continually push down the democratic actions of our legislatures, such as they may be. It is a sad day because we are now fighting democracy itself for the sake of scoring cheap political points and impressing people who live in Karen. This is sad. MCAs, when they impeach a governor, do so under the force of the Constitution. To say anything else for the sake of political expediency, to defend prison prefects, and to defend bad manners in leadership is a sad day, sad day.
Okay, well, the message has definitely been passed. Let's talk to Dismas Mukua. I mean, even as you give us your final thought, I think there's one issue that we didn't really transverse in terms of the BBI issue, and this is the legal framework behind this particular document. I mean, we've seen Parliament have been heard of committees, the JLAC committee actually pushing for a bill that will actually cement the yes and no plebiscite. What do you have to say about this?
You know, after the last general elections, the presidential election was in dispute. Then NASA went to the Supreme Court, and the bench, in their wisdom, said that this election was marred by irregularities and illegalities, that it was not clear who won the election. Then they said, let's have another repeat election. And Raila Odinga said, I'm not going for a repeat election because I'm not sure whether IBC has been restructured. As a result, we ended up having the two most powerful politicians in Kenya fighting each other, and the nation was almost bleeding. Then there was the handshake, which gave birth to BBI. And everything which has been done by BBI, if you speak to any sober lawyer, they'll tell you that everything is within the legal framework. Now, if there's somebody who doesn't want to support a BBI, it's very easy. You can go through this document and pick a misplaced comma, or you don't even like our coat of arms and say, I'm not going to support a BBI. And if you task me with the responsibility right now, I can give you a million reasons which will assist you to oppose this document. So in my view, if you're not supporting BBI, please wait for the referenda, then go and cast your ballot and indicate in black and white that you do not support the referenda, or rather BBI. If you're supporting BBI, wait for the right time, you go and cast your ballot. The way Senator Gideon Moore indicated a few days ago, watu wakutane kwa debe. But as we wait kukutana kwa debe, the elephant in the room here is about our economic performance. That Jubilee administration has also assaulted our economy, and the economy is bleeding. You recall they were supposed to restructure parastatus. That has not been done. You recall they failed to address the issue of the public debt. Nobody is looking at it. And now everybody is borrowing. The state is borrowing, the rich people in Kenya are borrowing, and Moran now is has been taken hostage by the online borrowing. So everybody in Kenya is bleeding. And in my view, as a matter of urgency, the President Kenyatta and his deputy, they need to come up and give us a Mora or a Wakesho sensitive economic recovery strategy that is going to lift everybody out of this poverty. If they don't do that, then you are going to be in trouble, which is why people need to embrace BBI, either they support it or they reject it, so that we are done with it, we go back to building the economy. And the last point, anybody who says that BBI is going to exclude the youth, it's, for me, committing a fallacy of generalization. Let's take the issue of representation. As a youth, you can run for the National Assembly or the Senate. Nowhere is it indicated that for you to run for the National Assembly or Senate, you must be 55 years plus. So tell me, how is the Kenyan youth being stigmatized by this BBI? So in my view, if you want to oppose this document, you need to have a cogent, structured rationale that you can convince people, instead of engaging in propaganda, which is not even solid propaganda. Propaganda that will make Adolf Hitler as a propaganda minister ashamed.
All right. Let's cross to Hesbon first. Hesbon, even as you give us your final thought, Leonard Chirchir asks you specifically how the structure of the executive can be done through the referendum, yet Article 255 does not contemplate
Well, I think I read that tweet, and there are two things he doesn't understand. That Article 257 talks about the process. And then the executive is one of the articles that is protected. So it has to go through it has to go through a referendum. So he simply needs to understand that you can change the executive, and then the power belongs to the people. And the people have to decide whether you are going to change the executive or not. And that is the route that Article 255, 256, and 257 provide. You can do parliamentary or popular initiative. But let me say this. I think the BBI process has been one of the most consultative processes that we know. And where we have reached, you can actually see three categories of people among those who want the BBI either derailed and are also afraid of going back to the people. The first category is the category of politicians who are looking for power. And from the onset of the handshake, they saw this as a threat to their ascendancy to power. It basically created bottlenecks in their pathways to power. And they would do anything, and they've come out to derail this process. I see more reason why they want the referendum to be combined with the next general election. Now, the second category of people are people who are involved. But it is safe to say that because their personal selfish interests were not incorporated in the BBI, they've decided to take a totally different trajectory, and a trajectory that is meant to derail the process. How Kenyans can explain a leader who reads the resolutions for an entire nation in this country coming out at this point to say that there are things in the BBI that he wants the Supreme Court to understand is in itself part of the politics of DC that BBI wants to sort. The only explanation I have is that there is something he was looking for, and it is not in the BBI, and it was not in the interest of the people who endorsed the BBI, and now he wants to muddy the water. Then the third category is a very interesting category because it is a category that is bringing together people from the civil society and people who were at some point telling President Uhuru Kenyatta when this country was on the brink of burning that you need to be a benevolent dictator. You need to crush these NASA demonstrators. You need to use power because you won the election. President Uhuru Kenyatta did not listen to these people. And I'm glad he didn't. Now there is the other group of the other folks who are in NASA who are telling Kenyans that we need to divide this country. We are tired. We did not participate in the election. So the best thing that we can do is to divide this country and call the people who support NASA a name that I don't recall. They've coalesced. And what they are doing is that they're frustrating efforts that all Kenyans were looking for when, after the 2017 election, we still had political turmoil. Kenyans should reject these people and should understand where they are coming from. Some of them were in Jubilee, some of them were in NASA. And I think their only objective is anarchy in this country so that their civil society organizations are funded. Because a peaceful, coexisting country will have civil society, some civil society organizations. We don't want to fund them to do what, and we are prospering. Then lastly, let me say this.
Shortly as you conclude.
Where we have reached, Jesse, Gloria should not tell the youth why they should reject BBI. Where we have reached, we need the merits and demerits of each of these 74 clauses. If there is one that you feel will help Kenyans, you need to articulate how. If there is one that is not going to help Kenyans, you need to explain how. Because ultimately, Article 1 of the Constitution and Article 255, 256, and 257 bring back the power to the people.
To the people. Thank you so much.
Tell the people how good it is or how bad it is, and then we will vote.
Okay. As we conclude, Gloria, 30 seconds.
It is imperative that I clarify when somebody says that the points I'm raising in terms of the youth agenda are actually false. It is imperative that I clarify that the document does not change anything for the youth as we are now. Yes, I have heard Dismas saying that nothing stops the youth to go and seek elective positions. Also, this document does not introduce something that empowers the youth to ensure that they are actually getting better grounds to get those elective positions. When you look at the two key things that the youth are seeking in this country, We need jobs. We don't have jobs. That is economic empowerment. And the other agenda that we keep pushing is inclusion in policy and governance. And at the end of the day, when you look at what the BBI is proposing in terms of the youth agenda, it is not addressing the fact that we do not have jobs. If anything, it is going further to say that we are just going to give you tax breaks. It is not addressing the fact that we are underrepresented in elective and appointive positions. And what I said is that in that expanded executive, there is no cap that introduces a statement that is going to empower us, that is going to put an affirmative action to have youth included in the 4 new slots that you are trying to address to us. So, as I say, and it is in the BBI document, we are not being addressed in that document. And so, therefore, why should you participate in a contest that is not yours?
Okay, I know Mark Bichachi, Dismas Mukua, Hesbon Owila, Gloria Roba definitely have more to say. Unfortunately, we'll have to fact check later on and definitely cross this point later on. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for your time. We've had Dismas Mukua, who's a political risk analyst, Mark Bichachi, communication strategist, Gloria Oroba, who's very passionate about the youth, as you've heard, as well as Mark Bichachi, communications strategist. Many thanks. Hesbon Owila as well, right there, giving us your input. And we definitely appreciate those of you who are at home and we've been able to interact on social media. We've come to the end of today's edition of Inside Politics. Up next, Weekend at 1. Keep it KTN News.
This is KTN News.